Hey everybody, welcome back to the next video in our series. This is kind of where we got to in the last video. We got our Spidey posed and he's looking so frustrated right now. He's just ready to throw in the towel. But I had him pose like this for a reason, and you'll find that out in this video. We're going to start doing the red part of his suit detailing and then maybe add his eyes and start on our webbing. And that might kind of eke into the next video part for... This is going to be a couple videos is what I'm trying to articulate in the English language. So let's just dive right in. And what we're going to start doing, first of all, I'm going to refine his gluteus a little bit, because we all want to refine our gluteuses just a little. Help with the anatomy a little bit there. If you turn on solo, sometimes when you're trying to do sculpting around where it's intersecting another subtool or another mesh, it can kind of be a little bit weird. But I'm just going to add a little bit of anatomy detail there, if that's the right word. Words are hard. I don't know how to use them. But I'm not going to push it too hard because, you know, I want this to be family friendly, but I also think it'd be kind of funny if there was just a tiny bit of detail there, you know. And all right, so that's called getting sidetracked. Okay, let's dive into adding the red part of his wardrobe, costume, suit, whatever you want to call it. And the way I'm going to do that actually is I'm going to duplicate my subtool, because sometimes you can't use certain brushes if there's subdivision levels. And so I'm going to delete lower. So right now we are locked at this resolution, okay? We can't step down our subdivisions anymore like we could over here. By hitting Shift D, we could drop down and then hit D to go back up. On this one, we're locked. And I'm going to start just masking out and painting where the red part of the suit goes. And if you have to look for reference, feel free to. I personally have been obsessed with Spider-Man since I was just a wee lad. So I kind of have an idea of where these things go, where the lines go, because I've just drawn him so much in my life. Probably drawn this character more than any other character. And so right now I'm just using the mask pen and I'm holding control and I'm just masking away. So we want his mask or his head to just be fully masked. So I'm going to use the mask lasso and just kind of draw, you know, just a mask around that so I don't have to paint it by hand. Switching back to my mask pen, I'm going to come down here and do the little, I think back in my day, he used to have this little belt that wrapped around, but I think that's kind of been done away with in the newer wardrobe. So I might just kind of like leave it like so. And then we'll come in here and just draw out, again using the mask lasso, we'll draw out his gloves. And then he's got some fancy pants boots too. So we'll do that. And that's pretty close, I think, to what we want to be the red part of his suit. And shame on me, but I can't remember if he has anything like an emblem or a design on the back of him. And this, I guess it totally depends on the suit. Now, back in my day, there was one Spider-Man suit, and that's just the way he looked. And so what I might do is pull up some reference here, and I'll show this to you. This guy, Alvaro Ramirez on ArtStation, had a pretty cool concept. And I like how simple it is. Looks like he does have the belt that wraps around, but he's got the Spider-Man emblem, and then obviously there's nothing, we can't see the back, but I like the webs, and they're pretty sparse, and I want to keep ours kind of like similar to this, and I like his eye detail too, but we might go bigger with the eyes. So I'm going to call this good for now as far as the masking. And we see that there's like a little bit of a blur on the mask edge, so we're going to hold Control Alt and then left click tap on the mask, and it's going to sharpen that up. So again, to blur that, just hold Control blur and then Control Alt will sharpen. So we'll just tap on that guy and get that masked out, and then clean up this little area right here. In fact, I might want to just drop this boot down just a little. I'll tab back over to, what's this guy doing? His are quite a bit lower down on his shin, so let's try and achieve that. So we'll Control Mask Lasso, and then holding Alt to invert our mask, we'll just bring that down lower like that. And it goes all the way around, and then we missed a spot here in it on his neck, so we'll clean that up. And I think we're in a good spot. You know what? I think I might just go with the classic old school style and have the belt kind of wrap around like so. Oops. Got some of it over there, so we're going to clean that up. Oops. Just remember to hold Alt to invert the selection. Control Alt to sharpen. And okay, so that looks great for now. And now we just need to do a mesh extract. We'll come down here to in our subtool palette, or menu, I should say. We'll go to extract, and then I'm going to drop the thickness down to like, or maybe increase it actually to 0.00, like 4 or 5, and then hit extract and see what happens. That might be too much. Let's go down to like 0.002. Try that one. Maybe even lower. Let's do like a 0.001 and hit extract. I don't want to inflate things out too much. I kind of like my proportions where they're at, so I'm going to hit accept on that guy. And now we have all of this stuff where we want it. So we're not going to need this interior poly group, so we're going to hold Control plus Shift and then left click on that group, and then Control Shift left click and drag a rectangle to invert our selection. And then we're just going to come down here to delete hidden. So we don't need that poly group that's on the inside there, but we just want this guy to work off of. And you know what, for funsies, maybe we'll try to just give it like a red value. So we know, and that's gonna switch everything to red because we have no poly paint data on any other subtool. So we'll just fill this object right now. If you go to color and then fill object, it's gonna fill that. And then if I alt left click on the body, so now I'm back on the body, we'll switch that to like a bluish color. And then fill object. And sometimes I like to do this because it does kind of help aid in the sculpting process to kind of see the colors and, you know, our lines and where things are going. It is kind of nice to see. Like, for example, we're seeing kind of weird little wibbly wobblies on this line that we're going to want to clean up. But also just keep in mind too that we actually might need to inflate this out just a little bit more so that these lines will show up, because we want these lines to show up so we kind of have a paint line on our 3D print to be able to follow along. But right now I feel like we're getting a little bit distracted, but let's continue doing our colors. We'll actually make this guy, I know he's supposed to be like a dark black, but we'll make him gray for now and just do a fill object, and then alt left click on his, I don't know what you call those, his logos, his other details, and I'm just doing kind of like a yellowish white fill object, and then we'll make his tongue a reddish pinkish color. Fill object. And his teeth are also going to be yellowish whitish. So, okay, so now one of these we didn't add that to, so we're going to have to come back here and then clear our mask. And we actually don't really need this guy anymore because we've already done our extracts of this guy. So we're just going to delete this Spidey. Remember, this is the Spider-Man that we deleted our lower subdivision levels. Just to be clear, we're going to maintain the other one, but we're going to delete this guy. Hit delete, hit OK. And I'm going to version up my file because I haven't done that in a while. First thing I'm going to do is save and secure a state, and then do a save next. So it's going to version up to version 9. And you'll notice that it inherits the name of that top subtool. Okay, so that's just what it does. Okay, so I think right now let's actually lighten up this red color just a little bit. If you want to eyedrop the color that your mouse is over, like a color picker type thing, you can hit C on your keyboard and it'll eyedrop that. I'm going to bump the red brightness because right now we're using a gray material, and so it makes it real dark. If you were to come over here to materials and switch over to this white skin shade, it's going to brighten that up a ton. And then turn off solo mode and turn on everything. You can see everything a lot better. So when I'm working with poly paint and actually working with coloration on the character, I like to hang out with this skin material. Okay, so we are on the red portion of our character subtool, and I'm going to draw out the eyes. So I'm going to hold Control and use the mask pen once again. And then draw out my eyes shape. I have to experiment with this just a little bit, with the size and shape and whatnot, so just to get these guys just right. I think I might like the bigger eyes, but we'll see. Okay. And then from this guy, let's do another mesh extract. Okay, so come down here to extract, and instead of 0.002, we'll come down to 0.001-ish and hit extract. And then hit accept. And then for these, we got to make them white. So we'll do a color and then a fill object so we can work with that. Okay. If I hit Shift F2, it looks like we have an outer poly group, but it's, I don't know if it's going to work. Let's do this instead. Let's come over here and just delete these guys. And notice that this is still masked on this side. So let's Control Alt and then mask pen the inside. Get that out of there. So we're just masking out that black section. That's going to be an easier process. Okay. Oops, I got his tip of his finger there. I kind of like these to be maybe a little bit thicker. All right, cool. So let's do an extract on that one and hit accept. And you'll notice it has these kind of wibbly wobblies, so let's unmask everything and then come back in here with a broad, scale up our draw size, and then with the smooth brush, we'll just kind of smooth things back just a little bit. Okay. And then let's say we want to add some thickness to this, so we'll come back to deformation and then run an inflate and just start to kind of, oh, that's too much. Okay. And then let's come down to black and fill these in, fill our object here. And we'll come back and let's run a Dynamesh, but we'll turn on polish in this case. Bump it up to about 360 resolution and run a Dynamesh. It's not enough, so we'll crank it to like 1500, and that's looking a little bit better. You'll notice that it kind of cleaned up our lines just a little bit, and we can continue to use the snake hook brush to kind of push things where we want them. Okay, maybe a little bit of a point here. Okay. And I'm not going to get too precious with these eyes. I think these are good for now. I've alt left clicked over to my red portion of the subtool, and honestly, when we paint it, we'll just let's undo actually our mask, and then what we'll do is invert by Control left click tapping, okay, and then let's hold Control Alt with our mask pen, and then unmask this inside portion, okay. And then we'll re-invert our mask. Control, left click, tap. Oops, sorry, we don't want to do that just yet. So we'll go back and then we'll fill our object with white, okay? And then turn off solo mode. And now we can kind of just see how things are looking. So if you'd like to just paint with just poly paint, you can come over here and turn off your Z add. So you don't want to sculpt, but you do want to paint. Make sure the RGB is on and your intensity is set to 100. And then I drop this color by hitting C as in Charlie on your keyboard, and then actually we'll do the red, and then we'll clean up these white lines right here. Okay. Okay, that's looking good. So let's hit save on our keyboard. Okay, so now for the hard part. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to mask out our web. I think it's going to be the easiest process. Originally I was thinking of doing curved tube snap. Well, we can just do a mask and extract, but we'll do first we'll test a little bit of an area. So I'm going to hold mask pen on this on the red poly group down here, and I'm just going to start drawing out my mask. And actually we don't have enough polygons, so you'll notice that when you poly paint, it's polygon specific. So if you don't have a ton of polygons, you're going to get these weird edges here, okay? Because it's basically one RGB value per face in ZBrush. So one thing we can do to get around that is we can either come down here and rerun a Dynamesh at a higher resolution, so we can crank it to like 2000. Run an operation on the mesh first, and then redraw your Dynamesh. Or you can come in here and just like hit Control D and just subdivide your actual Dynamesh, and that'll work too. So I'm going to go that route, and then I'm going to start to hold Control and draw like kind of where these webs go. Okay. And I'm going to come over here to Stroke and turn on my lazy mouse because I'd like to have some nice lazy straight lines, and then just draw out. Again, we're just going to test a small area on the mesh just to make sure that this is going to work first of all. Go back and forth, and then I'm going to draw my little contact point here, right here. And I don't want to be doing this for the next 3 years, so I'm going to spread these out nicely. I'm not going to do a ton of webs. And this is actually, this webbing is way more complicated than it seems, and it's really easy to draw in 2D when you're doing a comic book character, or a comic book or a 2D concept. But when you're actually doing this in 3D, it starts to get complicated, especially where you get around the neck area and things go from broad surface area to skinny, and it's going to be tricky. But now that we've got this mask drawn out, let's come up here and do a quick test with our subtool drop down. Come down here to Extract and leave it at 0.001 and hit Extract. I just hit Accept. Okay, and we got these weird wibbly wobblies, and the way that we get around that is we can just scale out our draw size on our smooth brush and just start running a smooth on there. Okay. If I pull up my concept, we're going to make those black, fill object, and yeah, I think that'll work. I think that's going to work. So obviously we might have to go back in here with the snake hook and kind of just push some things around and tighten up some of the details. But again, once this is printed at scale at 6 or 8 inches or whatever, fairly small, it's gonna hurt your feelings that you sat there and nitpicked on some of these details, because they're not going to show up. I want them to kind of stick out a good amount so that they do show up nicely in the print, because if they we don't want them to go smooth. We just want to know what we're painting when we do have to go back and paint this physically. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to hit Save, and then we're just going to continue on with that process. So I'm going to switch over to a time lapse, so you don't have to sit here and watch the entire thing. But I think this is going to work okay. So again, coming back here to my red part of the group, and then I'm just going to continue, actually turn off everything else, so get everything else out of the way, and continue to draw out my masks. Scaling my diameter of my brush size, and just continue to draw. Okay, so now that I've got all these webs drawn out, I'm just going to do I think I actually might clean this up. We'll go ahead and do an extract on these. So we'll come down here to extract, 0.001, and do an extract. And then hit accept on that. I'm just going to remember to save. So now, I think we can just delete this guy that we did our little test thing on too. So let's just delete that guy. Come back to our extract and turn everything else on by holding shift, left clicking the eye over there, and see how things are looking. Obviously we don't want webs, you know, in the insides of the eyes, so we're gonna have to go back and delete those. But I'm just running a smooth on these to kind of deflate them just a little bit. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how things are looking. So we'll come in here and I'm just going to hold let's turn on solo mode. Well, we'll leave that on actually because we need that. And then we'll just select, his hands keep getting in the way and it's driving me crazy. We'll turn off this guy and the blue guy. There we go. So with the orthographic view, hitting P, switching to our orthographic view, holding Control Shift, making sure that our lasso is the select tool. I'm just going to drag a lasso around the eye and then hold Alt to invert that selection to make that go bye-bye. And then I'm just going to come in here, make sure that I'm not deleting stuff that I don't want to delete. And then I'm just going to come down here to geometry, modify topology, and then delete hidden. I'm going to grab these little guys too because I don't need those. Control Shift and Alt and delete. Any little odd bits that we just don't want to have to deal with, we'll just get rid of those guys. Turn off solo mode. We have some more down here, looks like. Let's get rid of those. Gosh, sometimes the navigation on Zbrush, it'll kick your butt sometimes. Okay, so geometry, delete hidden, turning off solo mode, and let's take a look at this guy with everything turned on. And cool. I'm fairly happy with this. And again, I kind of want to see this without color and without it being black because I might actually switch back to just having him all gray for now. This was definitely helpful, but what I'm going to do is just go to color and switch over to white, and then do a unmask everything, Control left click drag, and then do a fill object, and then Control color, and then fill object. And just do this with all these parts that I'm working on right now. Fill object, get rid of the blue, and then I'm going to switch back over to my gray matte cap so I can kind of see, you know, what this is going to look like once it's printed and see the level of thickness and if that's all going to work out and show up in my print. So I just think this is a better way to kind of see things, and we want these eyes, I think, to pop out just a little bit more than the webbing. So I'm just going to use the snake hook and kind of pop that stuff out. Okay. And well, let's just kind of use the snake hook. I was going to try a different method, but it's probably a little too complex. So I'm just going to continue to use the snake hook and pull out my points, make everything kind of come to a point. Like so. Nice and sharp. And rerun my Dynamesh and Shift F, turn off polyframe. And I'm going to use my H polish actually, because I guess I'm trying to achieve these little sharp edges along the sides of the eyes, kind of like I have in my webbing, because right now they're looking kind of mushy. So using my H polish, I'm just going to run along this and see if I can introduce some sharp edges. Sharper edges anyway. And then if I'm coming over to geometry, make sure that Dynamesh polish is turned on and then rerun that. I think I need more resolution in my mesh, so I'm going to crank that to 200 and 2500 or so, and then rerun that. And you'll see we're starting to kind of get some sharp edges around the edges there. We're going kind of for more of a hard surface look on those eyes. And I'm probably getting nitpicky. This is probably not going to show up much in the print, but Anyways, either way, so I'll left click over to my webbing, and I'm going to continue to just smooth this out just a little bit. And then if you're worried about it getting too thin, you can always come out here, down here and do a broad inflate of that. It's probably too much. If you left click tap on that 0, you can switch it to 1 on the keyboard. Sometimes dragging the slider gets a little bit hairy, so I like it more inflated out like that, I think. It's going to work a little bit better for me. I probably want to draw along these edges as well to I think I want to maintain like a nice black line around the edges. So what I'm going to do is come over here to my subtools and see which ones I have available to me still. So I lost my edging there. What I'm going to do is come down here to, so I had the clean geo extract, right? So if we go back to that version and I come over here and I zoom up on this edge, I still have these clean loops that go around this because I did the extract. So if I come to the Z modeler brush and I mouse over one of these edges and make that edge white and hold spacebar and go to poly loop. So that's the default operation, is the poly loop for that. If I click on that, it's going to make this its own color, which is exactly what I want. And let's make sure we do that on all of our little edges for our gloves and then for our boots as well. Oops. Okay, so we've got blue loops on those edges. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to come up here now and Control Shift left click tap on a point on the blue edge, and now it's hiding all the other poly group. And if I come here to geometry, modify topology, and go to delete hidden, that is no longer there. So if I want to add some thickness to this, so it's going to be a nice border around our mesh, I can come up here, mouse over one of the faces on that, and then go to extrude and then polygroup all, and it'll extrude that out. Okay, so now I've added thickness to these. If I zoom out, you can see there's now thickness there. And what I want to do go from here is just hit Control D on the keyboard. Actually, it looks like we have some temporary creasing on there, so we're going to come here to edge loop, or I'm sorry, crease, and then we're going to do uncrease and then uncrease all. Okay, because we want this to round out when we hit Control D and subdivide. So I'm going to delete lower and turn off solo mode, and then run a inflate on all of these now, and just inflate these out like 1 or 2. Okay, oops, that's too much. Let's do 1. And then zoom out and hit Shift F, and now we have a nice little border around everything. Okay, and that's kind of what we want. So eventually we'll just combine this in with our webbing and run a Dynamesh to get rid of these little blobby edges. And but that's exactly where we want to go with it. So I'm just going to continue on now. Actually, I'm gonna save, and then I'm going to version up. Okay. From here, and I'm going to start working my webbing up the hands. So coming over to my subtool, make sure that my webbing, and if you're confused, you can come over here. Let's just actually combine these into our web right now, just for fun, for kicks. So I'm gonna in order to move subtools up and down, you can hold Shift, okay, and then actually not sure where that guy went. Where'd that guy go? Oh, he just went straight up. Okay. If you hold Shift and then click the arrow, or just click that arrow, it'll move up. But if I hold Shift and then right click this arrow down here, it'll snap it to the bottom. Okay. So let's see which one I'm on real quick. I'm kind of confused. Hold on a sec. So we'll grab the loops that we just made, hold Shift and click this arrow right here, and it'll drop it to the bottom of the stack. If I go to my other webbing and do the same thing, and then hold Shift and click that arrow, I just like to keep my work area down at the bottom of the stack, just so that I'm familiar with where those subtools are. And the reason I'm doing that in this case is because I want to just do a merge down. So I'm going to merge down into my webbing and combine that all together. And then I'm going to rerun a Dynamesh, which right now Dynamesh got deactivated because of our merge. So we're going to come back here to Dynamesh, crank this up to 1200 or so, and then rerun a Dynamesh. In fact, I'm going to go much higher. I'm going to go to like almost 3000 and rerun a Dynamesh on that. Okay, so now we've got these all combined together nicely. And I'm just going to go over here and just kind of do a smooth out some of these contact points. It's a very handsy process, and there might be a better way to do this. And I'm all ears if anyone wants to chime in the comments and let me know maybe possibly a better process that we could use for this. As of right now, this is reaching max capacity for me mentally. So just feel free to share if you have a better way of doing this. Looks like we accidentally combined these, and we don't want this to happen. So we're going to come back here and try to clean this up. With my inflate brush, I'm going to hold Alt to do the inverse, so it's deflating. And then it's still going to look weird for a second until we rerun a Dynamesh, and then it's going to try to... Actually, what we're going to have to do is hold Control, Shift, use our lasso, and come in here and just hide some of these faces that are connecting. And then we'll come back to Modify Topology, Delete Hidden, and then we're going to click Close Holes, and it's going to break those apart for us. And we'll have to do the same thing up here. That's just kind of a nature of Dynamesh. Sometimes if things are too close together, it gets a little bit weird. So move topological and work on these points a little bit and maybe kind of scoot these guys apart so we don't have to deal with that again. So I'm just smoothing and cleaning this up a little bit. Rerunning a Dynamesh, and now that stuff's gonna remain separate. So okay, looks like this guy got contacted as well. So delete hidden, close holes. Okay. Working on our sharpness and our points. Running on solo, off solo mode I should say. And then let's hit save. And let's go back to our mask brush and start masking out the gloves. In order to do that, we've got to come back here. I think we had hidden our gloves and our legs. So Control Shift left click tap to bring everything back to the front. Right click and clear our mask for now. And then let's do a fill because we still have poly paint on that. So we'll come back here to color fill with the white selected and get everything back to where we need it. So now let's start working our way. I'm going to go back to orthographic view by hitting P and then drawing the webbing on these gloves here. So I turned off my stroke, my lazy mouse. I'm going to turn that back on. Okay. Just going to go up to the knuckle area. I think we might have lost a subdivision level, so let's hit Control D and subdivide so we have more polys to work with. Try that again. We knew it was going to be handsy. It's going to be a lot of work. Okay, so from here we're going to come back and do our extract. The same values here, hit extract, and hit accept. Control left click drag and clear our mask and start smoothing back some of that. Okay. So now I'm going to merge everything down into the same. So we're going to merge the hand webbing down into the body and the head webbing. So I'm just going to do a merge down here. Now that's all combined together nicely. Okay. Cool. That's looking good. Come up here and save. And do a save as. Just make sure I'm saving to the right location, and then I'm going to do a save next and version up from here. And now I'm going to dive down to the boots. So I'm going to Control Shift left click to unhide and unmask these hands and start doing the same thing down here on the boots. Hide everything else. And let's get webbing. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. This is how all our webbing is coming along. Switch this to like a black color just to kind of get a better view here. And it gets, it gets pretty chunky up here where they all kind of connect, and so this might be something where we have to come in here and refine this a little bit, so so we know like where to paint against when we get this character actually painted. I don't know if I'm gonna paint it because I hate painting, you guys. I just hate it so much. I love modeling, but I hate painting. But if we kind of just want to increase the size of these holes just a little bit more, and just make it look like less kind of jumbled and combined together, I think it'll look more visually appealing. So I'm using my Move Topological brush here, just fair warning, and cranking my intensity up. Just kind of increasing the size of these holes and cleaning this guy up a little bit. That's looking a lot better. Okay, so I'm super happy with this for now. I think I'm gonna hit save and then switch back to the white color on that. And then now we have to just focus, I think, on getting our character into pose, getting his hands in the right positions. We'll steal Venom's cell phone over here. And what we're going to do is just turn on our transform gizmo and hold control while we click this blue arrow and drag it out over to Spidey and rotate it into place and scale it. His phone's going to be smaller, obviously, because he's Spider-Man and not Venom. Let's kind of get it into place where we think it's going to be. Probably doesn't need to be that close to his head. So now we have, oops, we need to flip it around too. This is doing some kind of weird selfie. Okay, so now we got that phone into place, and so now here's the question of posing our character. Okay, so we've got the red geo here. Let's think through this, how we're gonna do this. I'm actually going to combine these eyes down into the webbing too. We'll just merge down into those. So we're just scooting those down by hitting the arrow, dropping them to the bottom of the stack, and then merging those down. So we have our character here in a clean topology, and what I think I'm going to do is just merge him down into the red, and then we'll rerun a. This isn't going to be interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's just do a test real quick here. So with this one as the active subtool, let's make sure we have enough subdivisions. We'll come to geometry. We have 4 subdivisions on this particular subtool. If I mouse over, it'll say I have 821,000 polys. I want to control D and give it one more subdivision level to subdivision 5, and now I have 3.2 million polygons. And I'm going to turn off visibility of everything else by holding shift and left clicking this eye over here, and then I'm just going to turn this one eye on, and then the stuff I'm going to project back to that subtool. So now if I turn on off solo mode, all of this stuff is what's visible. I'm going to save right now because this can be an intensive procedure and can crash Zbrush. So I'm just trying to get all of this detail in these subtools projected up to this guy. So with all of these 4 subtools visible, come over here to project, and I'm going to leave it at the default for now and just hit project all and see what happens. This may or may not work very well. There's going to be a workaround in case it doesn't, but let's see how it does. This is a very common workflow using the project inside Zbrush, so just get familiar with that. You're going to use it a lot in your Zbrush career. So it looked like it only projected a few things that it wanted to project, which is no good, but that's not a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this body, and then we're going to merge. First things first, because this could be quite destructive, I'm going to save, and then I'm going to version up my file, my subtool, into the next. So we're securing the state of the last one, and then I'm going to merge this character, this one, into all of these other remaining subtools. So I'm going to merge down. Merge down. Oops, it says it's partially hidden, so I have to make sure that, in fact, we don't need this guy. Hold on a sec here. We're not going to need this one anymore because this is the Dynamesh that we were drawing our webbing on, so we'll just delete this guy for now. And so we got these two. We're going to merge this guy down. Okay, and make sure at this point that we are happy with the state of the webbing, and I might want to use the move topological and pull some of that out. Just, it's not going to work very well. It's its own poly group, so we can just Control Shift left click and grab these webs. Actually, let's do this. Let's Control Shift left click on the body, invert our selection, and then select the red detailing, and then hit just Control W on the webbing. And now we can we have control over this. So I'm just gonna inflate the webbing just a little bit, just to make sure that it's going to maintain in the projection. So I'm going to do a 1 inflate on those, and I'm happy with that. Tyson Likey. Going to unmask and do another save here because I'm a save Nazi. And go to geometry and then Dynamesh, and I'm actually this is gonna shrink wrap all of our poly groups together. So let's go for it. Let's take the risk and just, if we turn on Dynamesh at 1200 resolution, see what happens. Then it did kind of a weird, interesting little, that's not what we want. Let's crank our resolution and see if that helps. Yeah, that helped. That's better. So let's actually crank it to 2500 and run a Dynamesh. Awesome. Okay, so now you'll see that the topology is continuous throughout everything. It's all combined together, kind of shrink wrapped together. And this is very similar to how our 3D print file is going to work when we're sending it off to the printer. But we want to get this detail from here back to our clean topology. Okay, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hit Shift D and step down to my lowest subdivision level. And with these two visible, only these two visible, I'm going to hit Project from here. And then I'm going to hit D and step up a subdivision level and hit Project from here. And then continue to do that, hitting D and then Project, and then D and then Project. And this is a good way of just making sure, sometimes if you project from the highest subdivision level, you'll get some weirdness. So I like to do it sometimes at the very base level and then just reproject, 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 and I get the best results that way. Again, just remember this is a very, very common ZBrush workflow using projection. And it's super crazy powerful, especially when you think you've lost detail and you want to get that detail back, then you can always just reproject that back. So now I think we've got everything combined with an adequate resolution on our clean topology. Okay, this is what we want, and now we can just delete this guy. We don't need the Dynamesh version anymore. So now we can easily pose our character, and this is where it's kind of the point of no return. So let's turn on all of our subtools, get our phone visible, and then hit save and make sure that we version up our file because it's going to be tricky to come back from this. So I'm going to hit Shift D, and first things first, I'm going to scale up the size of his head. It's kind of been bothering me. I think his head needs to be a good 20% bigger. So I'm going to use my Control Mask Lasso and just mask out the head area, and then Control left click and tap to blur that mask and invert. And then I'm going to move this guy, switching back to my orthographic view. I'm going to move this pivot into place, center, unlock, relock, and then I'm going to use the yellow square to scale up his head size. So now the reason we had to work in a clean topology is because now everything follows. All this detail is going to travel when we start to do our posing. Okay, so that's the reason we try to get everything back to this. So now I'm going to use my rotate, and I'm going to turn off symmetry, making sure symmetry is off, and just get this hand here into place using my rotate, left clicking and dragging along the topology there, and then coming over here to my mask and then blurring my mask a little bit. I'm going to start to kind of move this forearm into place where the phone needs to be. Okay. Now I'm going to come up here to the switching over, clicking on that transform gizmo, and then switching to the legacy transform. I'm just going to use this guy and kind of get the hand rotated to the phone there. And this is going to be a pretty drastic deformation of the thumb, so just be ready for it. Remove, re-click and drag our joint structure here and get his thumb kind of creased over and typing on that phone. Using move and rotate, you're definitely going to have to clean up some of the detailing here. You're going to get some weird stretching. And you might want to emphasize, you know, the size of his thumb and kind of get that in there. Let's just scroll it away. Smoothing out some of the weirdness here. Then you can always step up, you know, and see how things are looking. Obviously there's some like polling on the webbing here that we're going to have to adjust. But just always keep in mind too the size at which you're going to print, because that's going to play a role at on the detail level itself. And then be sure to always kind of look at your own hand too and see what your hand does when you're holding your phone, and use your sometimes I forget I have my own body, and you can use your own proportions and your own poses and to get things into place. So I want this pinky to be, when I hold my phone, my pinky's bent the most, you know, and then I'm going to bend this ring finger using the snake hook. Make sure your mask is blurred nicely. So the next finger I'm going to bend is the middle finger. Blur the mask here. And then I'm just rotating the camera to the axis I want that finger to bend to. So it's kind of making it work. And then I think overall I'm going to rotate his hand to face his face a little bit, step down my subdivision level so I can easily blur that mask, and then redraw my joint structure for the radius of the hand, and then rotate to kind of face a little bit better. And then I have to bend his index just a smidge. Okay. So after you do this transpose, it's not like a one, you know, it's not one solution here. You're going to have to just come back here and use like the snake hook brush and the move topological brush to get those finger proportions kind of back to where you wanted them. So let's turn off solo and see where the phone is fitting. Obviously we're going to have to move either the hand or the phone. In this case, probably the hand is the better option. So let's drag a joint down here and then get his hand into place. And then his thumb needs to be less bent towards the palm, so we're going to rotate that guy out. Okay. And then overall, we'll rotate the hand like so, and it's getting much closer. We just want to get that hand itself behind the phone and then just have the thumb up there. And again, move topological is your friend. Be sure to step up your subdivision levels to see what kind of damage you're doing at the high res level. And one thing I find is that the move topological brush struggles with really high subdivision levels, so just fair warning, sometimes you just have to default to the snake hook brush or what have you. So cool, so that hand's looking like it's checking out his cell phone. We might have to turn his head just a little bit too. So let's try that for now, stepping down our subdivision levels and then turning on the rotate transform, control left clicking and dragging up the neck area, and then make sure you're snapping around so it's in the right place. And then his head's kind of leaning to the side there. Maybe he's kind of bored. Yeah. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too much. Let's rotate back just a little. Okay, that's better. And now let's get that other hand posed. And one thing I'm noticing is maybe he's bent over just a smidge too much. So I'm going to actually mask all of this, well, not his hands, that's not going to work. So we'll just try to master like roughly the elbow area. And then I'm going to left click and tap and blur that a good amount. Switch over to my rotate from the pelvis and kind of come up just a little bit. Just a tiny, tiny bit. And then some things I can still work with symmetry on, so his elbows might need to be scooted back just a little bit. Give us some forearm length, because the forearms are roughly the same length as the upper arms, and right now the upper arms are looking a little bit too long. So let's I'm going to deflate these guys and kind of get those into place. And now I'm getting sidetracked, so let's turn off our symmetry, make sure that's off, and start working on this other hand. And so we want this hand to be resting right on the chin of our character. We could do a fist, I guess. Let's see, let's try. I think I'm going to keep his hand open because I don't want to make a fist. I'm feeling kind of lazy, so I'm just going to keep. We'll do the two fingers along the side is what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to have to stretch this a little bit to get that up there, but that's fine. No one's going to care as long as it looks good. So let's rotate this hand. Kind of like rotate it this way. Okay. Notice we got pinching now in the wrist area. That's fine. We can always bring that back. And the nice thing about ZBrush is you think, oh, if I smooth this, I'm going to lose my webbing. And that's not necessarily the case. If you step up, you'll still see your webbing at the highest subdivision level. So that's what's one thing that's awesome about ZBrush. It's pretty tricky like that. So turning off our poly frame for now and just seeing how things are looking. Okay, and then stepping back down so we can continue to pose here, and dragging our mask up the hand. Whoops, that was tricky. How did I do that? I'm not sure how I did that. Oh, I'm in move, that's why it's doing weird things. Let's continue to rotate though. And then I think we're gonna have to move our head into the hand a little bit. But the first thing I'm gonna do is when I do this, I bend my ring and my pinky fingers all the way to the palm, so I'm going to try and achieve that, and that's going to be tricky. We don't have a lot of poly, so I'm going to step up a subdivision level and then start to rotate that pinky into place. And remember to rotate your camera as well so that you are aware of how things are looking at different angles. And then bend this guy this way as well. And that actually worked quite nicely. So let's continue to do so with the ring finger here. Oops. Remember to drag the outer orange circle is just going to move your transform gizmo, and the inner red circle is going to actually do the deformation. So let's re-drag that guy and then rotate, and I'm going to move it, kind of stretch it out just a little bit and into place. Okay. And then I'm going to come back to my move topological and kind of just like push it to the extreme here, and try to just see what I can push with these fingers and just have those kind of coming up the eye. The thumb, so we're getting pretty pinchy in his wrist here. The thumb can actually kind of stretch down just a little bit, so if I control left click and drag up the thumb, I can kind of just scoot the thumb down just a little bit along his, to kind of be going along his jawline. Okay, made that up with the snake hook, and gonna step everything up with the D and see what our higher subdivs are looking like. Again, just using the move topological brush here, and fairly happy with how this is looking. He's looking kind of bored. Gonna adjust this tush just a little bit more here. Give him some hips. And maybe a little bit more lats here in the back. And I got this kind of weird wobble with the web here, so let's straighten that guy out. Okay, it's cool. So it was a long process, it was arduous, but you stayed with me, and I hope you all made it through okay. Let me know in the comments what was the most difficult, and if there's a better way to kind of do this. There probably is. I'm just going to continue to refine my proportions a little bit more. Make his knees a little bit pointier, jutting out. The nice thing about this is he's still mostly in symmetry. So, and the other thing too is, I'm not sure if I covered this in this series, but we have something called posable symmetry. And so you might think to yourself, okay, because I moved the hands to be different, we've lost our symmetry, right? And also we've lost our symmetry in the eyes and in the head and everything. And I'm just gonna save because I'm being obsessive. And the way that you can do that, because we were working on a clean topology the entire time, we can come down here to activate symmetry and use posable symmetry, and it'll take a second to calculate, but it's using the points on our character because it was a clean topology to re-symmetrize even though it's been posed. So even though this pinky's bent down right here and it's straight right here, it's still going to work with symmetry. So if you have to continue to refine things, like for example on this pinky we didn't connect this very well, I can come over here to the clay buildup brush and then scale our brush down and then continue to refine our webbing detailing with symmetry. And that's one of the benefits of maintaining a clean topology in your workflow, okay? And that's a huge benefit. But sometimes it will get a little weird because you don't really want symmetry to be working perfectly sometimes, when you've broken symmetry. And so just be aware of that. But for now, I've got symmetry turned off, and I'm just going to refine these forms a little bit and kind of push them back into realistic territory, and just maybe spread this pinky out just a little bit. Now he's kind of looking like he's never held a phone before, so we're going to continue to get these contact points to be a little bit better here. I'm going to rotate the thumb and try to get that in a better spot. I'm going to blur my mask, put the inner red circle there, this red circle out here, and move this guy into place. I'm going to do an inflate because we're getting a little bit pinched through this thumb area, maybe through all the fingers just a little bit. And I think this is looking pretty sweet. So getting a little bit stretchy over on this side, so I'm going to move the knee in and try and fix this. So there might be time to make some broad proportional adjustments, so I'm going to use the snake hook and broadly kind of push these details out just a little bit and see, just kind of explore a little bit some more strained proportions. I just can't speak today at all. Back to the inflate brush and inflate in these little contact points and snake hook them back up into submission here. Alright, cool. Switching out of orthographic view, and I'm gonna paint these guys back to white just to get everything uniform. Okay, so this is kind of what we're looking like. In the next video, I think we pretty much banged out these characters, and they're getting super close. So in the next video, I'm going to do a few minutes of refinement, just refine my detailing, my proportions, and maybe a little bit of posing on Venom to get his hands and his arms more relaxed. And then we're going to combine it all together, Dynamesh everything together, shell everything, and get it scaled and off to print. So thanks for joining me in the video. Again, we did some pretty complex things, and maybe I overcomplicated things. Let me know if you've seen a better way of doing things, especially with the webbing. It was pretty tricky, and it's looking okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could probably look better, but I'm fairly happy with this, and I think it's going to work in the print pretty well. So we'll continue to refine and make this and beautify these guys in the next video. Be a gem and like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I try to upload 2 to 3 times a week, and I'm excited to see you in the next one.